Have you ever noticed how some people, they just seem to have this like knack for money, you know? It just seems to come easily.
Yeah.
Well, other folks, they really struggle even if they're making decent money.
Right.
It's not always about how much you earn.
Exactly.
And that's something we're going to really dig into today in this deep dive into this book that I love this book, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel.
It's such a good one.
It totally changed how I think about wealth and just our whole relationship with money, you know?
Absolutely. It really challenges that kind of traditional idea that financial success is like all about being a genius, right?
Yeah.
Or having these like super complex, investing strategies. It's really about the psychology, right? Like our backgrounds, our experiences, our emotions, they all play a role.
Totally. And he kicks things off with this idea that just really stuck with me. So I used to work as a valet, right?
Right.
And I'd see these guys pulling up in these like flashy sports cars, throwing money around. And some of them were definitely loaded.
Yeah.
But some,
Somewhere we're living that facade.
like on a show, yeah.
Champagne life on a beer budget, as they say.
Exactly. And it got me thinking, like, what really drives these decisions? Is it just about showing off, or is there something deeper? Because here's the kicker. I also met this like totally unassuming janitor, Ronald Reed, same hotel.
Okay.
Drove a beat-up Toyota, never flashy. Guess what?
What?
The guy quietly amassed millions
Wow.
through smart saving and investing.
It's a perfect example, right? Like, outward appearances can be so deceiving. Rand understood that true financial success, it's not about, keeping up with the Joneses.
Right.
It's about making choices that actually align with your values.
It's so true. And that's
Yeah.
what I find so fascinating about this book. It really makes you think about how our own experiences like shape our money mindset.
Totally. Like, Housel talks about, someone who lived through, like, the hyperinflation of the 70s. They're going to view money very differently than someone who's, like, only known relative price stability.
Right. They might be more inclined to hoard cash or invest in something tangible.
Exactly.
Even if, like you read an economics textbook and they say that's not the right approach, their personal history is shaping these decisions.
Totally. And those different experiences, they make it, like, really tricky to give financial advice sometimes too, right?
No,
Because what seems like a total no-brainer to one person
could be terrifying to somebody else.
exactly based on their own, like, financial upbringing,
No, it makes you realize there's no like one size fits all
Right.
when it comes to money.
Yeah.
It's a personal thing.
It is.
And speaking of personal experiences, the book also dives into this whole luck versus skill thing
Yes.
when it comes to finances. Like take Bill Gates, for example.
Ah, yes, Bill Gates, the classic example of,
Entrepreneurial genius.
exactly. But, as Housel points out, even his path was paved with a lot of luck.
Right. I mean, the guy was brilliant, no question.
Oh, absolutely.
But he also happened to go to one of the only schools in the world that had access to a computer terminal at that time.
That's huge.
That's a lucky break.
Yeah, that's a serious dose of luck.
For sure.
And then you have, the tragic story of his friend,
Yeah.
Kent Evans, who was, by all accounts, equally brilliant.
Yeah.
And he dies young in a climbing accident.
It's a good reminder that no matter how talented and hardworking you are, sometimes life just throws these curveballs.
Yeah.
And no amount of financial planning can fully prepare you for that.
It's very sobering when you think about it, right?
It is.
Like, how much is actually in our control?
Makes you think twice about judging other people's situations too,
Definitely.
because you just never know.
Yeah, you really don't. So how do we navigate this then?
Yeah.
If luck plays such a big role, where does that leave us?
Well, Housel says that we shouldn't let that make us feel defeated.
Okay.
Right. Instead, it should make us more humble.
Okay.
It should give us a sense of perspective.
I like that. It's about kind of like acknowledging that our plans can get disrupted, right? But those disruptions can sometimes lead to new opportunities,
And it's about celebrating those wins without getting too caught up in thinking we have it all figured out.
Right, because that can be dangerous,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
As we see with someone like Jesse Livermore.
Oh, yeah. More the trader, legendary trader.
Legendary trader who, like, made and lost fortunes, like, multiple times.
Yeah. Like one big during the 29 crash, but his need for more,
It's like he could never be satisfied.
Yeah.
Even with like unimaginable wealth, you know?
He just kept going until it all fell apart.
Exactly.
Which kind of brings us to another point Housel makes, It's so seductive to want more and more and more.
Oh, it's so tempting.
But as we saw with Livermore, it can also be really destructive.
Absolutely. Like, it's that classic saying, enough is never enough, right?
But sometimes it needs to be.
It really does.
Otherwise, you end up like Livermore. Always chasing, never satisfied.
And that brings us back to our friend, the thrifty janitor, right?
And Ronald Reed.
Ronald Reed, yeah, exactly. While Livermore's out there chasing these like highs and lows, Reed's like finding contentment in that slow, steady growth.
He understood it wasn't about having more than you could ever need.
Right.
It was about having enough.
Exactly.
To live a life that you actually wanted to live.
And that's really what it's all about. And this is where this whole idea of compounding comes in.
Okay.
It's like the secret to building wealth gradually. It's almost like passively, right?
Yeah.
It's this like hidden force working in the background.
Okay.
But you got to be patient,
Okay, so tell me more about this compounding thing. How does it actually work? And why should I care?
So imagine like an ice age, right?
Okay.
You've got these massive glaciers. They don't just form overnight, do they?
No.
They're the result of these like tiny, tiny changes, right? In temperature, in snowfall, but they accumulate over like centuries.
Okay, because you're talking about the power of these small actions.
Exactly. And just like those tiny changes create these like massive ice sheets, right? Small amounts of money invested consistently, they snowball into significant wealth over time.
So it's not about getting rich quick then.
Yeah.
It's about playing the long game.
Exactly. It's about consistency. And this is where I think Housel's analogy of the hard drive, right? The hard drive storage space.
Okay.
It's brilliant. Remember like back in the day when like a gigabyte of storage?
Oh yeah. Huge.
Insane, right?
A fortune.
Now we're talking about terabytes like it's nothing.
Yeah, it's true. And it happens so gradually, right?
Exactly.
We didn't even really notice it.
Well, exactly. That's the thing about compounding. It sneaks up on you.
Okay.
But instead of, data, we're talking about your money growing exponentially.
Wow.
So those small contributions that you make, they might seem tiny in the moment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But over time,
Yeah.
they add up to something amazing.
And the earlier you start.
The more time that magic has to work.
Gotcha. So compounding, this awesome force, right?
Yeah.
But it's not like just about the numbers, right?
No, not at all.
The real magic is when that turns into freedom, right?
Exactly. That's where the freedom dividend comes in, right?
Okay.
Housel talks about how the best return on your wealth isn't always, just more money.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the control over your time.
It makes me think about how different work is now than it used to be. Like Housel uses this example of a factory worker in the 50s.
Okay, yeah.
Clock in, clock out, pretty clear boundaries.
Right. What you did in between was your business.
Oh, cool.
But now, so many of us, right?
Always on.
Emails, weekends, it all blurs together.
And that's where that freedom dividend is huge.
Oh, absolutely.
It's about like being able to structure your days differently if you want to.
Exactly. You want to like take a break, travel, spend time with family, maybe try something new that might not pay a ton right away.
Pursue a passion.
Exactly. That flexibility, man, that's powerful.
Reduces stress too.
Oh, 100%. You're not as worried about every little thing.
And it's funny because we think of wealth and we picture those things, right? Fancy cars, vacations, like I used to see as a valet.
Right, the outward signs.
But like Housel says, a lot of times real wealth is kind of invisible, isn't it?
It is. It's not about the stuff you buy.
It's the security you've built.
Exactly. That peace of mind, knowing you can handle those curveballs life throws at you.
Because they're definitely going to come.
Oh, yeah. Life rarely goes according to plan.
Truth. And I think that's where people get tripped up, right?
How so?
They're focused on the wrong stuff. Spending instead of building that foundation.
It's like they say, trying to get rich quick is a great way to stay poor long.
Ouch. That's real. But okay, so how do we get out of that spend it all mindset?
Well, Housel makes saving sound pretty good. And not just for the money itself,
Okay.
It's about what that saving represents.
Security.
Security options, knowing you've got a cushion.
It's like an escape hatch. but one that opens doors to.
I love that because that's it. Saving, it's not about depriving yourself now.
Right.
It's about investing in your future self.
Give yourself choices later.
Exactly. And that ties into this whole room for error thing.
Okay, break that down for me.
All right. So imagine you're playing blackjack, right? Got your strategy, you're counting cards. Maybe you even have a little edge.
Okay.
But even the best, they know you can hit a losing streak.
Can't control every hand.
Exactly. So you need enough cash to ride those out.
So you can keep playing.
Stay in the game long enough for things to turn around.
So it's like a financial buffer for life's setbacks.
Exactly. Emergency fund, backup plan for work, even in your relationships, A little flexibility goes a long way.
So it's not about avoiding risk entirely. It's about, managing it.
Being smart about it. And that kind of leads into another thing Housel talks about, how we tend to be, especially with money, kind of pessimistic.
It's funny you say that because I think it's true. Bad news is always louder than good news, isn't it?
It is. We're hardwired to focus on what could go wrong.
Makes sense though, right? From, back in the day, you had to be ready for danger.
Survival instincts. But nowadays, doesn't always help us make the best choices.
Especially with money.
Because here's the thing. Pessimism, it might sound smarter, more realistic, but
it can make you miss out on opportunities too.
it can make you, play it too safe sometimes.
Right, miss the forest for the trees.
Exactly. And it's tough because we're surrounded by negativity.
Right. Oh yeah. News, social media, everybody loves a disaster story.
It's true. And Housel talks about how even if these, doom and gloom predictions are wrong,
Which they often are.
right? But they still stick with us, they get in our heads.
Like that one guy, what was his name? The Russian professor?
Igor Panarin.
Yeah, Panarin.
Mm.
Predicting the U.S. was going to collapse.
Oh yeah, back in 2008.
Got a ton of attention and, well, here we are.
Exactly. So how do we fight that instinct, Housel says, shift your focus, look at the long game.
Instead of freaking out every time the market dips or something.
Exactly. Market corrections, they're normal. Over time, the market tends to go up, but you got to ride out the bumps.
Keep your eyes on the prize, not the little dips and turns along the way.
Exactly. And that kind of leads into, I think, one of the most important things Housel says. You got to do you.
Okay.
When it comes to money, there's no one right answer for everybody, right?
What works for me might not work for you.
Exactly. You might be fine with a job that pays less but gives you more flexibility.
If that's what's important to you.
Totally. Some people love the thrill of risky investments.
Others want slow and steady.
Exactly. It's about knowing yourself, your goals, what you're comfortable with. Don't try to be somebody you're not.
Love that. So it's not about keeping up with some imaginary scorecard. It's about figuring out what success actually means to you.
100%. And that can change too, right? What matters to you at 20 might be totally different at 40.
Totally.
Yeah.
So our financial plans, they got to be flexible too.
Absolutely. Have a compass, not a map, right? Be ready to adjust as you go. And be kind to yourself through that process.
Yeah, we're all learning as we go.
Yeah.
We always think about personal finance as being all about numbers and spreadsheets and stuff.
Right.
But reading this book, it really feels like there's an art to it too.
There is. You got to understand people, their emotions, their hopes and fears.
It's about recognizing that money, it's a tool.
It is. It's not the end goal.
It's how we use it that matters.
Exactly. So as we wrap up, I think if there's one thing I want people to take away, it's that financial success, it's not about being a genius.
Okay.
It's about your behavior.
It's about those habits, the long-term thinking.
Right. And tuning out all that noise, the pressure to keep up with everyone else.
Finding what works for you.
Exactly.
Well said. Housel ends the book with this great question, and I think it's the perfect thing for us to think about. What if you woke up tomorrow and your financial life had to last for 50 more years? Would your decisions still feel right to you?
That's a good one. Makes you think, huh?
It really does. Makes you think about what's important, what you want your legacy to be, both financially and, well, in all areas of life, really.
Totally.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the psychology of money. It's definitely a book everyone should check out.
Couldn't agree more. Lots to think about.
That's for sure. Until next time, keep learning and keep exploring.
Thanks for tuning in to the audio podcast. You're here with my friend Jordan, and I'm Ashley. We hope today's episode brought some light to your day. Don't forget to follow us on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode. Share it with a friend and keep spreading the good vibes. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep shining.